Christmas morning at my parents' house should have been magical, but watching my brother Trevor's three kids tear through expensive wrapping paper, while my 8-year-old daughter Emma sat quietly with one small gift made my stomach drop. Dad announced we were keeping things fair this year, just as my nephew opened a brand new laptop. I recognized the receipt tape still stuck to the box, the same laptop I helped my parents buy last month when they claimed financial hardship. Emma held up an $8 notebook with unicorns smiling bravely. The morning started like every Christmas for the past 2 years since my wife Sarah died. Emma and I arrived at my parents' house in suburban Denver, carrying homemade cookies and carefully wrapped presents I could barely afford. My daughter bounced excitedly beside me, her red dress, the same one she wore last year, because new clothes weren't in our budget after all the money I'd been sending to help my family. Walking into the living room, I noticed immediately how many presents sat under the massive tree. Piles and piles of beautifully wrapped gifts, far more than I remembered from previous years. Trevor's kids, ages 10, 12, and 14, were already eyeing the impressive display while Emma quietly took her place on the old couch. "Morning, son," Dad said, pulling me into a brief hug. His smile seemed forced, almost nervous. "Ready for a great Christmas?" Mom bustled over, wiping her hands on her apron. "Barnaby, dear, Emma looks so sweet. That dress still fits her perfectly." The comment stung. Of course the dress still fit, she'd only worn it once. But I forced a smile and settled beside my daughter, who was carefully arranging her hands in her lap, the way Sarah used to teach her. "All right, everyone," Dad announced, rubbing his hands together. "We're keeping it fair this year. Every child gets to open their gifts, and we're all going to enjoy watching." Fair. The word hit me like a physical blow as I watched Trevor's oldest son, Marcus, grab the first present. The laptop box was enormous, clearly expensive, with that telltale Best Buy wrapping. As Marcus tore away the paper, I felt my blood run cold. There, still attached to the corner of the box, was a small piece of receipt tape, white with black printing, that I recognized immediately because I'd seen it just 4 weeks ago when I handed my parents $3,000 for what Dad called emergency mortgage help. "Oh wow, a brand new MacBook Pro," Marcus shouted, holding up the silver computer. "This is incredible." My hands started shaking. I knew exactly how much that laptop cost because I'd researched the same model for Emma's upcoming birthday, only to realize it was completely beyond my reach as a single father working 2 jobs. Emma leaned against my arm, her voice barely a whisper. "Daddy, that's really nice. Marcus is lucky." Trevor beamed from his spot across the room, his designer sweater catching the light from the tree. The same sweater I'd seen him post about on social media last month, joking about his unemployment shopping therapy. Unemployment that had supposedly lasted 8 months, yet somehow funded regular posts from expensive restaurants and weekend trips. "Keep going, kids," Mom encouraged, her voice unnaturally cheerful. Trevor's daughter Sarah grabbed the next box, revealing professional-grade headphones worth at least $400. Then came the gaming headset for the youngest, followed by gift cards totaling what looked like several $100s. Emma's pile contained exactly one present. One small thin rectangle wrapped in discount paper from the dollar store. "Here, sweetie," Mom said, handing Emma her gift with what seemed like reluctance. "This one's for you." My daughter carefully peeled away the tape, her movements precise and grateful in the way that broke my heart. Inside was a spiral notebook with cartoon unicorns on the cover. The price tag was still on the back, $7.99. "Thank you, Grammy," Emma said softly, clutching the notebook to her chest. "I love unicorns." But I could see the confusion in her eyes, the same look she got when other kids at school talked about things their families could afford. The look that reminded me every day how much I was failing her. Marcus had moved on to his second present, a PlayStation 5 that must have cost $600. The same gaming system Emma had mentioned wanting after seeing commercials, the one I gently explained was too expensive right now. "This is amazing," Marcus yelled, jumping up and down. "Can we set it up right now?" "After all the presents are open," Trevor said, grinning. "Let everyone finish first." I stared at that PlayStation box, my mind racing through every financial conversation I'd had with my parents over the past 2 years. The mortgage emergency that required $3,000. The car repair that needed $1,800. The medical bills that cost $2,200. Every time Dad's voice had been heavy with shame and worry, explaining how they were barely keeping their heads above water on their fixed retirement income. "Dad," I said quietly, trying to keep my voice steady, "can I talk to you in the kitchen for a minute?" "In a bit, son. Let's let the kids finish opening presents first." Emma sat perfectly still beside me, her notebook balanced on her knees, watching her cousins tear through gift after gift. A new bike for Marcus. Art supplies worth hundreds of dollars for middle child Jessica. A complete skateboard setup for the youngest Tommy. "Daddy," Emma whispered so quietly I almost missed it. "Why don't Grammy and Papa love me like the other kids?" The question hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I pulled her closer, kissing the top of her head, while my heart shattered into pieces. "They do love you, sweetheart," I managed to say, though the words felt like lies. But Emma wasn't stupid. At 8 years old, she could count. She could see the difference between one $8 notebook and thousands of dollars worth of electronics and toys. She could feel the difference in energy, the way the adults focused all their attention and excitement on her cousin's reactions while barely glancing her way. "Maybe next year," I added weakly. Except I was starting to understand there would be no next year. There would be no change in this pattern because the money they claimed they didn't have was flowing freely, just not in Emma's direction. As the gift opening continued, I found myself mentally calculating the value of everything Trevor's kids received. The laptop alone was probably $1,500. Add the headphones, gaming system, bike, and everything else, and we were looking at close to $4,000 per child. $4,000 each, more than I'd sent my parents in the past 3 months combined. Trevor caught my eye and shrugged, his expression almost apologetic, but not quite. "Kids these days, right? Everything's so expensive." "Yeah," I said slowly. "Everything's expensive." But some things apparently were expensive in ways that mattered, and some weren't. Mom returned from the kitchen carrying hot chocolate for everyone, but Emma was the only one who got the cheap store-brand mix, while the others received gourmet cocoa with real whipped cream. Another small difference. Another tiny cut that added up to a wound I was just beginning to understand. I reached into my jacket pocket for my phone, thinking to check the time, and my fingers brushed against something that didn't belong. Paper. I pulled it out carefully, keeping it low so nobody else could see. Bank statements. My bank statements, printed out and folded up. Statements I'd never given to anyone, with my recent transactions highlighted in yellow marker. The $3,000 transfer to my parents' account. The $1,800 emergency loan. The $2,200 for medical bills. All highlighted, all marked with little notes in my mother's handwriting. And at the bottom of the page, in Dad's familiar script, Christmas Fund, TB Kids. TB Kids, Trevor's kids. My emergency loans, given during my darkest moments of grief and financial struggle, had been labeled as Christmas funds for my brother's children. While Emma and I ate pasta and store-brand cereal so I could help my family, that help was being converted into PlayStation systems and MacBook Pros for kids whose father posted pictures of expensive dinners every week. I slipped the statements back into my pocket, my mind reeling. How had they gotten these? When had they printed them out? And why were they in Dad's jacket that was now hanging in my parents' hall closet? Emma leaned against me again, her small hand resting on my arm. "Daddy, can we go home soon? I want to write in my new notebook." "Of course, baby," I said, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. "We can go whenever you want." But first I needed answers. I needed to understand exactly what had been happening to the money I'd been sending, money that came from skipping meals and working overtime and selling things that had belonged to Sarah. Looking around the room, watching Marcus set up his expensive headphones, while Emma quietly traced the unicorns on her notebook cover, I realized this wasn't just favoritism. This was something much worse. This was theft dressed up as family love and disguised as fairness. While Mom fussed in the kitchen and the kids played with their new toys, I excused myself to help with lunch preparations. The house felt different now, every familiar corner holding new shadows. The hallway where Sarah and I used to hang our coats, the living room where we'd announced our pregnancy with Emma, the kitchen where Mom had cried with me after the funeral. All of it tainted by what I was starting to understand. "Mom, your phone keeps buzzing." I called out, noticing her cell phone lighting up on the counter next to the coffee maker. "Oh, just ignore it, honey. Probably those spam calls." But as I glanced at the screen, I could see message notifications. Lots of them. Group chat notifications from something called Family Planning Committee. Family Planning Committee. A group chat I'd never heard of. Actually, it looks like family messages. I said, picking up the phone. "Want me to check if it's important?" "No." Mom's voice was sharp, almost panicked. "I mean, it's fine. Just some neighborhood thing." But she was across the kitchen with her hands covered in flour, and the phone was right there buzzing insistently. Almost without thinking, I swiped the screen. The group chat was still open. 7 members: Mom, Dad, Trevor, Trevor's wife, Jennifer, Aunt Patricia, Uncle Robert, and my cousin David. Everyone except me. The most recent message was from Trevor, sent just 20 minutes ago. "Kids love everything. Barnaby doesn't suspect a thing. Still think we should have gotten Emma something nicer, though." Jennifer's response: "Are you crazy? That would blow our cover. The whole point is keeping him feeling guilty enough to keep sending money." My hands went numb. I scrolled up, reading message after message that made my stomach turn inside out. "Dad, 3 weeks ago. Barnaby came through with the Christmas money. $3,000 just like we hoped. Should be enough for the big ticket items." Aunt Patricia: "Poor Emma, though. Doesn't seem fair to the little girl." Mom: "She's fine. One kid having less builds character. Besides, Barnaby spoils her enough at home." Trevor: "Character right. More like we're keeping the golden goose happy. Guy's still so messed up from Sarah's death, he'll believe anything." Uncle Robert: "Speaking of which, who's handling the next emergency? I was thinking car trouble for Mom and Dad's Honda." The messages went back months. A detailed record of manufactured emergencies, coordinated guilt trips, and strategic manipulation designed specifically to extract money from my grief and desperation. Dad, 2 months ago. Medical bill emergency worked perfectly. Barnaby transferred $1,800 within 2 hours of my call. Kid's such a sucker for anything health-related since Sarah. Jennifer: "Brilliant using the medical angle. He's terrified of losing anyone else." Mom: "I actually felt bad when he asked if I was okay. Poor boy was crying on the phone." Trevor: "Save the sympathy. He makes decent money at both jobs, and he doesn't have a wife to spend it on anymore. We're just helping him invest in family." I kept scrolling, finding messages that went back even further. Plans made during Sarah's funeral. Discussions about how to maximize the opportunity of my grief. Calculations about how much money I might have available after losing my wife. Uncle Robert, 18 months ago. Barnaby's life insurance payout should have come through by now. Time to start the mortgage emergency storyline. Aunt Patricia: "God, you people are cold. The man just buried his wife." Trevor: "The man just got $200,000 in life insurance. Money he wouldn't have without our family connections helping him get that job. We're entitled to some support." $200,000. They knew about Sarah's life insurance policy. They knew exactly how much I'd received, and they'd been systematically planning ways to get their hands on it. The most devastating message was from 3 weeks after Sarah's funeral. "Dad, talked to Barnaby today. Kid's a wreck, can barely function. Perfect time to hit him with the mortgage crisis." Mom: "Are you sure? Maybe we should wait until he's more stable." Trevor: "Strike while the iron's hot. He's vulnerable now, and he'll do anything to keep Emma's remaining family happy. This is our window." And it had worked. I remembered that call, Dad's voice shaking as he explained how they might lose the house. I'd been sitting in our empty bedroom holding one of Sarah's shirts, crying so hard I could barely breathe. The thought of Emma losing her grandparents' house on top of everything else had made me physically sick. I'd transferred the money that same day. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Is Barnaby acting weird? He's been quiet since the presents. Mom's phone buzzed with her response. He's fine. Always gets moody at Christmas. Missing Sarah and all that. Trevor, good. Thought maybe he was catching on. Have Dad lay some groundwork for the next emergency? Spring car repairs or something? I took screenshots of everything, my hands shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone steady. Message after message of calculated cruelty, planned exploitation of my love for Emma, and my terror of losing anyone else from my devastated family. But the worst was yet to come. At the very top of the conversation history, I found the original messages that had started it all. Dad the day after Sarah's funeral. Boys got Emma, now no family support except us. He'll do whatever it takes to keep us happy. Mom, Trevor's kids deserve nice things. Barnaby's got more money than he knows what to do with. Trevor. Plus, think about it long term. Emma's going to need college money eventually. Better we invest his cash in my kids' immediate needs. Emma can get scholarships or whatever. Aunt Patricia. This feels wrong. The man's grieving. Uncle Robert. The man's rich now. Grief pays well, apparently. Jennifer. My kids have been wearing hand-me-downs while Barnaby sits on life insurance money. Time for some wealth redistribution. They'd planned this before I'd even finished funeral arrangements. While I was picking out Sarah's coffin and trying to figure out how to explain death to a 6-year-old, my family was calculating how to profit from our tragedy. The kitchen door swung open and Mom walked in, drying her hands. "What are you doing with my phone?" she asked, her voice suspicious. "Reading about how my grief has been such a profitable business opportunity for everyone," I said quietly. Her face went white. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she lunged for the phone, but I'd already stepped back, screenshots saved to my own device. "Barnaby, let me explain." "Explain what?" "How you've been using my dead wife to manipulate money out of me. How you've been laughing about my pain in group chats. How you've been planning fake emergencies while I skip meals to send you cash." "It's not what it looks like." "It's exactly what it looks like. 2 years, Mom. 2 years of fake crises and manufactured guilt while my daughter goes without, so your precious Trevor's kids can have PlayStation systems." Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, her unicorn notebook clutched to her chest. "Daddy, are you okay? You sound upset." "I'm fine, baby. Grammy and I are just talking." But Mom was staring at me with something between fear and calculation, probably wondering how much damage I could do with what I'd discovered. "Your father doesn't know about the group chat," she said quietly. "It was Trevor's idea. We just got carried away." The lie was so automatic, so smooth, that I almost wanted to applaud. But I'd seen Dad's messages, his enthusiastic participation in every scheme. Right, Dad's totally innocent. Just like how the mortgage emergency was real, and the medical bills were legitimate, and the car repairs actually happened. Emma stepped closer to me, sensing the tension even if she didn't understand it. "Daddy, can we go home now? I want to show Mittens my notebook." Mittens, our cat. The cat I'd almost given away last month because I couldn't afford vet bills after sending $1,800 for Mom's common emergency the doctor visit. "Yes, sweetheart, we're leaving right now." "Barnaby, please," Mom said, reaching for my arm. "Don't make this bigger than it is. We're family." Family. I repeated the word, tasting bitter. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't exploit grief. Family doesn't teach children that some kids matter more than others. I took Emma's hand, her small fingers warm and trusting in mine. "Get your coat, baby. We're going home." As we walked toward the front door, I could hear urgent whispers from the kitchen, probably Mom calling an emergency family meeting to manage the crisis of my discovery. But it was too late for management. It was time for consequences. "Hold on there, son," Dad's voice called out as Emma and I reached the front hallway. "You're not leaving before dessert, are you? Your mother made that special apple pie you like." I turned around slowly, Emma's coat in one hand and her notebook in the other. The living room had gone quiet except for the electronic beeps and music from Marcus's new gaming system. Trevor looked up from where he'd been helping set up the PlayStation, his expression carefully neutral. "We need to talk, Dad. All of us." "Of course, son. After the kids finish playing. No need to interrupt their Christmas fun." "No," I said, walking back into the living room with Emma close beside me. "We need to talk now. About mortgages and medical bills and car repairs. About emergencies that seem to happen right before major purchases." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Trevor stood up slowly and Jennifer grabbed her youngest son's shoulder a little too tightly. Mom appeared in the kitchen doorway, her face pale. "Maybe the kids should go play upstairs," Trevor suggested. "Maybe they should hear this," I replied. "Maybe they should understand where their Christmas presents actually came from." Dad stepped forward, his voice taking on that familiar tone of disappointed authority. "Barnaby, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this isn't appropriate. It's Christmas." "You're right. Let's talk about Christmas. Let's talk about how my daughter got an $8 notebook while your other grandchildren got thousands of dollars worth of electronics. All purchased with money I sent for your fake emergencies." "Those weren't fake," Mom protested, but her voice lacked conviction. I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots. "Really? Because according to your family group chat, the one I wasn't invited to, you've been planning these emergencies for months. Quote, medical bill emergency worked perfectly. Barnaby transferred $1,800 within 2 hours." Jennifer's face flushed red. "You went through private messages." "Private messages about stealing my money. Yeah, I read them. All of them. Including the parts where you joke about keeping the golden goose happy and using my grief over Sarah's death as leverage." Emma pressed closer to my leg, her voice small and confused. "Daddy, what's a golden goose?" "It's someone people pretend to love while they take advantage of them, sweetheart." "That's enough," Trevor snapped, stepping toward me. "You're scaring the kids with this nonsense." "Scaring them? Let's talk about what's scary. What's scary is teaching children that family means lying and stealing and manipulating people's pain for profit." Aunt Patricia, who'd been silent in the corner, finally spoke up. "Barnaby, honey, you have to understand. Trevor's been unemployed. His family has real needs." "Unemployed?" I laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. "The same unemployment that funds regular posts about expensive restaurants. The same unemployment that bought that designer sweater he's wearing. The unemployment that somehow allows for weekend trips and shopping sprees." Trevor's jaw tightened. "My business is my business. Your business becomes my business when you're funding it with money stolen from me and my daughter. Money I sent thinking my family was in crisis while Emma and I ate pasta every night so I could help you." "Oh, please," Jennifer interjected, her voice dripping with contempt. "You act like you're so poor. You got $200,000 when Sarah died. Don't pretend you're struggling." The room went dead silent. Even the kids stopped playing their games. Emma looked up at me with wide, confused eyes. "How do you know about Sarah's life insurance?" I asked quietly. "Because we're family," Dad said, as if that explained theft. "We know these things." "You know these things because you've been calculating how much money you could extract from my grief since the day of her funeral." I read the messages, Dad. All of them. Including the ones where you plan to strike while the iron's hot, because I was vulnerable after burying my wife. Mom started crying, but they were the wrong kind of tears. Tears of being caught, not tears of remorse. "We just thought," she began, then stopped. "You thought what that I was too stupid to figure it out. Too broken by grief to notice. Too desperate to keep Emma's family intact to question where my money was really going." Uncle Robert, who'd been quiet until now, stood up from his chair. "Look, maybe this got out of hand, but Trevor's kids deserve nice things too. You can't expect them to go without just because Emma's father makes more money." "Emma's father?" I repeated slowly. "Not Emma's cousin. Not Emma's family member. Emma's father, as if Emma herself doesn't matter." "That's not what I meant," he backtracked. That's exactly what you meant. And you're right about one thing. This did get out of hand. It got out of hand when you decided my daughter was worth less than her cousins. It got out of hand when you decided my wife's death was a business opportunity. Emma tugged on my shirt. Daddy, I don't understand. Are Grammy and Papa mad at us? The question broke something inside me. I knelt down to her level, keeping my voice gentle, despite the rage burning in my chest. No, sweetheart. Grammy and Papa made some very bad choices, but that's not your fault. And it's not mine either. Bad choices? They took money that was meant to help them and used it for things they wanted instead. They lied to Daddy about needing help. Trevor exploded. Are you seriously going to poison an 8-year-old against her family? I'm going to tell my 8-year-old the truth. That her father worked 2 jobs and skipped meals to help family members who were stealing from us. That the reason she couldn't have the things she wanted was because I was sending money to people who were laughing about manipulating me. You're being dramatic, Mom said, wiping her eyes. We never meant to hurt anyone. You never meant to get caught. There's a difference. Dad stepped forward, his voice taking on the dangerous edge I remembered from childhood. Now you listen here, son. After everything we've done for you, and Emma raising you, supporting you through your marriage, being there when Sarah got sick, you want to throw that all away over some money. Some money. I stood up, Emma still clinging to my leg. Dad, I've sent you over $15,000 in the past year alone. $15,000 that came from selling Sarah's jewelry, working overtime, and skipping Emma's school activities because I couldn't afford the fees. $15,000 that I thought was keeping my family afloat. We appreciate everything you've done, he said, but his tone suggested otherwise. You appreciate it so much that you plan to ask for more. I saw the messages about spring car repairs. The next manufactured crisis to keep the money flowing. Jennifer stood up abruptly. You know what, fine. So we use some of your money for our kids' Christmas. So what, you have more than enough, and our children deserve nice things too. Your children, I said slowly, have been getting nice things bought with money I earned while my daughter went without. While Emma wore the same dress 2 years in a row, Marcus got a $1,500 laptop. While Emma asked for a bicycle for her birthday that I couldn't afford, your kids got gaming systems and professional equipment. Life's not fair. Trevor shrugged. Some kids get more than others. You're right. Life's not fair. But family is supposed to try to make it a little more fair, not deliberately make it worse. Emma's voice was very small. Daddy, why are Marcus and Jessica and Tommy more important than me? The question hung in the air like a bomb. Even Trevor had the grace to look uncomfortable. They're not more important, baby, I said, my voice breaking slightly. They're not more important at all. Aunt Patricia tried to smooth things over. Emma, honey, you're very important. We all love you very much. Then why did their presents cost more money? Emma asked with the devastating logic of an 8-year-old. If you love me too, why didn't I get nice things? No one had an answer for that. Or rather, they had an answer, but it wasn't one they could say to a child's face. The answer was that Emma mattered less because her father was easier to manipulate. She mattered less because her grief-stricken parent could be guilted into funding other children's happiness. You know what, Dad? I said finally. You're right about one thing. After everything you've done for me, I am going to throw it all away. I'm going to throw away every lie, every manipulation, and every fake emergency. I'm going to throw away the family that sees my daughter as less deserving than her cousins. Your wife would be ashamed of your selfishness. Dad said, his voice cold and cutting. It was the wrong thing to say. The absolutely wrong thing to say. My wife, I said, my voice deadly quiet, would be ashamed that I let her daughter's family steal from her trust fund. She would be ashamed that I was too trusting and too broken to protect our child from people who see her as collateral damage in their scheme to get rich off our tragedy. I picked up Emma's coat and helped her put it on, her movements automatic but confused. Where are we going, Daddy? Home, sweetheart. We're going home and we're not coming back. Ever sure, she asked, and there was something almost hopeful in her voice. Ever. As we walked toward the door, the family erupted behind us. Voices overlapping accusations, flying blame being assigned to everyone except the people who deserved it. But I didn't turn around. I was done looking back. The drive home was silent, except for the Christmas music playing softly on the radio, songs about family and love and coming together that felt like cruel jokes now. Emma sat in her car seat, clutching her unicorn notebook, staring out the window at the suburban streets decorated with lights and lawn displays. Daddy, she said finally, her voice very small. Did I do something wrong? No, baby. You didn't do anything wrong at all. Then why were people yelling, "Why did Grammy look scared when you were talking to her?" I pulled into our driveway, the little house Sarah and I had bought when Emma was born. It looked smaller somehow after the grandeur of my parents' place, but it was ours. It was honest. Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices, I said, turning off the engine. Sometimes they hurt people they're supposed to love. Grammy and Papa and Uncle Trevor made some very bad choices, and I had to tell them that wasn't okay. Emma unbuckled herself and climbed into the front seat to sit on my lap, something she'd been doing since Sarah died, when she needed extra comfort. Are we still a family? She asked. You and I are a family, the most important family, and we're going to be okay. Are you sure? I looked down at her serious little face, so much like Sarah's, and felt a certainty I hadn't experienced in 2 years. I'm sure. In fact, we're going to be better than okay. Inside the house, mittens wound around our legs while Emma carefully placed her notebook on the kitchen table. The house felt different, lighter somehow, as if a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying had been lifted. I'm hungry, Emma announced. Can we have Christmas cookies for lunch? We can have whatever you want for lunch, I said, surprising myself. When was the last time I'd said that? When was the last time we'd done something just because we wanted to, without calculating the cost, or the obligation, or the guilt? While Emma munched on cookies and milk, I opened my laptop and began reviewing every financial account I shared with my family. The car insurance policy that covered my parents' car, and somehow also Trevor's family. The cell phone plan that included lines for my uncle and cousin. The streaming services that had multiplied over the months as family members asked to share passwords. My phone started buzzing. First Mom, then Dad, then Trevor. I let them go to voicemail. Who keeps calling? Emma asked. People who are upset that their free ride is ending. I said, then immediately felt bad for being so blunt. People who want to apologize, I amended. But when I listened to the first voicemail, apology wasn't what I heard. Barnaby, it's Mom. I think you misunderstood what you saw today. Those messages were taken out of context, and you're being very hurtful to the whole family. Call me back so we can discuss this like adults. No apology. No acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Just gaslighting disguised as maternal disappointment. The second message was from Dad. Son, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this behavior is unacceptable. Your family needs you and you're being selfish and dramatic. Come back tomorrow so we can sort this out properly. Trevor's message was shorter and angrier. You're making a huge mistake. Think about what you're throwing away over some money that will pay back eventually anyway. Pay back eventually. As if 2 years of systematic theft was just a loan between family members. Emma finished her cookies and wandered into the living room to play with mittens, humming softly to herself. She seemed calmer than she'd been in months, as if she'd also felt the tension I was only now recognizing. I pulled out the bank statements I'd found in Dad's pocket and spread them across the kitchen table. Highlighted transactions notes in the margins, calculations about my available funds. It was like looking at evidence from a crime scene. But what kind of crime was it? Theft, fraud, elder abuse in reverse, where the elders were abusing their adult child's trust and grief. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Emma deserves to have extended family. Don't punish her for your pride. I stared at that message for a long time. The manipulation was so smooth, so practiced. Turn my decision to protect Emma into a selfish choice that would hurt her. make me the villain for refusing to continue funding their lifestyle. But Emma was in the next room playing peacefully with our cat, not asking why her cousins got better presents, or why family gatherings felt like performances where she never quite belonged. She seemed lighter already, as if she too had been carrying a burden I hadn't noticed. I started with the car insurance, calling the number on my policy. Hi, I need to remove some vehicles from my coverage. My parents' Honda and my brother's Suburban. Of course, sir. Can I ask the reason for removal? They're no longer eligible for family coverage. The representative walked me through the process, explaining that the removed parties would need to secure their own insurance immediately to maintain legal driving status. I felt a small petty satisfaction knowing that Trevor would have to explain to Jennifer why their car insurance had suddenly been canceled on Christmas Day. Next came the cell phone plan. 5 extra lines that I'd added over the past year as family members claimed financial hardship. My uncle's phone, my cousin's 2 phones for Trevor's teenage kids, and Mom's new smartphone that she'd needed for emergency medical communication. I'd like to remove 5 lines from my account, I told the customer service representative. That's quite a few changes, sir. Will there be any issues with the account holders losing service? That's not my concern anymore. The streaming services were easier. Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, and 3 others I didn't even recognize. Password changes, account cancellations, and service interruptions that would probably happen right in the middle of Christmas Day movie watching. Emma wandered back into the kitchen and climbed onto my lap while I worked. What are you doing, Daddy? Making some changes to help our family, I said. Making sure we're not paying for things that don't benefit us anymore. Like when we stopped buying the expensive cereal because it was too much money. Exactly like that, sweetheart. She nodded seriously, then brightened. Does this mean we can maybe buy the good cereal again? For the first time in months, the answer was actually yes. My phone buzzed with another text, this one from Aunt Patricia. Your mother is crying. How can you be so cruel on Christmas? I looked down at Emma, who was tracing patterns on the wooden table with her finger humming the same soft tune. She wasn't crying. She wasn't asking when we could see Grammy and Papa again. She wasn't begging to play with her cousin's new toys. If anyone had asked her an hour ago if she was happy, she would have said yes, because children adapt, and because she didn't know what she was missing. But now in the quiet of our own house, with the pressure and performance removed, she seemed more herself than she'd been in months. My phone rang. Dad again. I declined the call and immediately blocked his number, then blocked Mom's, Trevor's, and everyone else who'd been part of their family planning committee. Daddy, Emma said suddenly, next Christmas can we have our own party? Just us. Would you like that? Yes. We could make special pancakes for breakfast and watch movies and play games. And maybe… She paused, thinking. Maybe we could get presents for kids who don't have any. Like the kids at the shelter where Mommy used to volunteer. I stared at my daughter, this wise little person who'd somehow learned compassion despite being surrounded by selfishness and manipulation. I think that sounds like the best Christmas plan ever, I said. And for the first time since Sarah died, I actually meant it. That evening, after Emma had fallen asleep clutching her unicorn notebook, I sat in my home office with a bottle of beer and a legal pad making lists. Not the frantic, grief-stricken lists I'd made during those first awful months after Sarah died, but methodical, purposeful inventories of exactly how deeply my family's financial manipulation extended. The car insurance had been just the beginning. As I dug through bank statements and credit card bills, I discovered layers of financial entanglement I'd forgotten about or never fully understood. The family cell phone plan was costing me an extra $240 monthly for lines I didn't use. The streaming services added up to another $130 each month. But those were just the obvious ones. There was also the family Amazon Prime account, where I'd been the primary payment method for 2 years. The Costco membership that somehow covered 5 households. The LEAA roadside assistance that extended to vehicles I'd never seen. Even a subscription to some premium cable sports package that I didn't watch but Trevor apparently couldn't live without. Altogether, I was paying nearly $600 monthly for services that primarily benefited people who'd been stealing from me. My phone, despite having blocked the main family numbers, kept buzzing with calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Extended family members, family friends, probably even neighbors who'd been recruited to contact me on behalf of my parents. I turned it off and focused on my work. By midnight, I had called or logged into every account, changing passwords, removing authorized users, and canceling services. Each phone call felt like cutting another rope that had been slowly strangling me. The Amazon account representative seemed confused by my request to remove 4 authorized users all at once. "Sir, these accounts have been linked for over 2 years. Are you sure you want to remove all family member access?" "I'm very sure. This will affect any pending orders they have scheduled for delivery." Good. Trevor had 3 items in his cart worth over $400, including a wireless speaker system and some kind of expensive kitchen gadget. All scheduled to be charged to my account on December 26th. Not anymore. The Costco cancellation was particularly satisfying because I knew Trevor's family did their major grocery shopping there every weekend, buying premium brands and expensive prepared foods, while I clipped coupons for Emma's school lunch supplies. But the real discovery came when I started digging into my credit reports. Something I hadn't checked thoroughly since Sarah's death left me overwhelmed with paperwork and grief. There, listed among my authorized accounts, were 3 credit cards I'd never applied for. Store credit cards in my name with my social security number, but with billing addresses I didn't recognize. Cards that had been opened during the most chaotic period after Sarah's funeral, when I was barely functional, and signing whatever paperwork people put in front of me. The balances made me sick. $4,200 at Best Buy. $2,800 at Target. $1,500 at some high-end electronics store. All maxed out, all with minimum payments that had been somehow getting paid automatically from my checking account through a maze of electronic transfers I'd never authorized. I called the fraud department of my bank, and the representative who answered sounded tired but professional. "I need to report unauthorized use of my accounts and possible identity theft," I said. "I'm sorry to hear that, sir. Can you walk me through what you've discovered?" I explained about the credit cards, the automatic payments, the accounts I'd never opened. As I talked, I could hear typing on the other end. "Mr. Peterson, I'm seeing the accounts you're referring to. The applications were submitted with your information, but the signatures—" There was a pause. "Sir, do you have family members with access to your personal documents?" "I did, until today." "The applications have your social security number and employment information, but the handwriting on the signature lines doesn't match the signature we have on file for your primary accounts." Forgery. They'd forged my signature to open credit accounts and had been systematically draining them for months. "What are my options?" and I asked. "We'll need to start formal fraud investigations on each account. You'll need to file police reports. This is definitely criminal territory, sir." Criminal territory. My family hadn't just been manipulating me emotionally, they'd been committing actual crimes. I hung up from the bank call and opened my laptop, searching for the number of a lawyer who specialized in family financial fraud. It was past midnight on Christmas, but I left a detailed voicemail explaining my situation and asking for an emergency consultation. Emma wandered into my office around 1 in the morning, rubbing her eyes and carrying mittens. "Daddy, why are you still awake?" "Just taking care of some important grown-up things, baby. Go back to bed." "Are you sad about Grammy and Papa?" I looked at my daughter, her hair messy from sleep, her unicorn pajamas wrinkled but comfortable. She didn't look upset or confused anymore. If anything, she looked more relaxed than she had in months. "No, sweetheart, I'm not sad. I'm actually feeling better about things." "Good," she said simply. "I didn't like it when you were always worried about money." Out of the mouths of babes. My 8-year-old had noticed the financial stress I'd been carrying, the constant anxiety about making ends meet while sending money to family members who were stealing from us. "Things are going to be different now," I told her. "Better different. Can we get pizza tomorrow? The good kind with lots of cheese. Yes, we can get pizza whenever we want. She grinned and padded back to her room, mittens trailing behind her. I returned to my lists, adding up numbers and calculating exactly how much money I'd been hemorrhaging each month to support my family's lifestyle. Between the emergency transfers, the shared accounts, the services I was paying for, and the fraudulent credit cards, the total was staggering. Nearly $2,000 every month. $24,000 per year. Money that could have paid for Emma's private school or dance classes, or the family vacation we'd never been able to afford, or a college fund that would have made Sarah proud. Instead, it had funded gaming systems and designer clothes and restaurant meals for people who saw our grief as an opportunity to profit. My laptop chimed with an email. The lawyer I'd contacted had responded even at this late hour. Mr. Peterson, your situation sounds complex but not uncommon in families where there's been a recent death and inheritance. I can meet with you tomorrow at 10 a.m. if you'd like to discuss your options for both civil recovery and criminal prosecution. Based on your voicemail, you may have grounds for both fraud charges and civil restitution. Bring all documentation you have. This can be resolved and you can recover much of what was taken. Criminal prosecution, civil restitution. The words felt heavy but also hopeful. I printed out bank statements, credit card applications, screenshots of the group chat messages, and every piece of evidence I could compile. By 3 in the morning, I had a file folder thick with proof of systematic financial abuse. My phone, which I'd turned back on to check messages, had 43 missed calls and 17 voicemails. I didn't listen to any of them. Instead, I drafted a single text message to my parents. All shared accounts and services have been canceled. Fraud investigation initiated. Contact my lawyer for any further communication. I included the lawyer's contact information and sent the message to everyone who'd been part of their family planning committee. Then I blocked all their numbers, deleted their contact information, and went to bed. For the first time in 2 years, I slept through the night without waking up worried about money. I woke up the next morning to Emma singing softly in her room and sunlight streaming through windows that somehow seemed brighter than usual. For a moment, I couldn't remember why I felt so different, so much lighter than I had in months. Then I remembered I was free. Emma appeared in my bedroom doorway, still wearing her unicorn pajamas, mittens purring in her arms. Morning, Daddy. Can we really have pizza for breakfast? How about we start with pancakes and work our way up to pizza? She giggled and climbed onto the bed beside me. This feels like a good day. It did feel like a good day. Better than any day since Sarah died. My phone was buzzing insistently from the nightstand. When I picked it up, the screen showed 67 missed calls and 29 text messages, most from numbers I didn't recognize. The voicemails were a progression from confused to angry to desperate to threatening. I listened to the first few out of morbid curiosity. Mom at 6 a.m. Barnaby, please call me back. There's been some kind of mistake with the insurance company. They say our car isn't covered anymore. We can't drive to work without insurance. Dad at 6:30. Son, you need to fix this immediately. Your mother and I have appointments today and our phones aren't working. This isn't funny anymore. Trevor at 7. What the hell is wrong with you? Jennifer's car got towed because our insurance was canceled. We've got 3 kids to get to their after-Christmas activities. Call me back right now. Uncle Robert at 7:30. Nephew, I don't know what your parents did to upset you, but punishing the whole family isn't the answer. My phone got cut off in the middle of an important call with my doctor's office. The messages got increasingly frantic as family members discovered their various services being shut down. Apparently, Trevor's family had been in the middle of a Disney movie marathon when their streaming services died. Cousin David's teenage daughter was locked out of her social media accounts because her phone line had been terminated. Mom couldn't call her bridge club to cancel their weekly game. But the message that really got my attention came from Aunt Patricia at 8:15. Barnaby, honey, your mother is having chest pains from the stress. We're at the hospital. She keeps saying she needs to call you, but her phone isn't working. Please, whatever's going on, don't let pride hurt your family. Chest pains. The hospital. Another emergency designed to guilt me back into compliance. I scrolled through the text messages, finding variations on the same themes. Outrage confusion demands for immediate restoration of services, and increasingly desperate attempts to manipulate me back into funding their lifestyle. Jennifer had sent 3 messages. Emma needs her cousins in her life. Don't punish children for adult problems. Your parents are elderly and need family support in emergencies. I'm calling child services if you don't stop this insane behavior. That last one made me laugh out loud. Child services. For providing my daughter with a stable, honest home environment instead of exposing her to family members who saw her as less deserving than her cousins. Emma looked up from where she was playing with mittens on the comforter. Who keeps texting you? People who are learning that actions have consequences, I said. My doorbell rang at 9:15 just as Emma and I were finishing our pancake breakfast. Through the front window, I could see Trevor's Suburban in my driveway, the same vehicle that had been covered under my insurance until yesterday. Stay in the kitchen, sweetheart, I told Emma. Daddy needs to talk to Uncle Trevor. I opened the front door to find Trevor standing on my porch, his face red with anger and something that looked like panic. We need to talk, he said, pushing past me into the living room. No, we don't. You need to leave. Look, I get that you're upset about yesterday. Maybe we didn't handle the gift thing perfectly, but this scorched earth bullshit has to stop right now. Scorched earth. I closed the door and turned to face him. Trevor, you've been stealing from me for 2 years. You've been using my grief to fund your lifestyle while my daughter went without. That's not a gift thing that wasn't handled perfectly. That's systematic financial abuse. Abuse? Are you kidding me? We're family. Families help each other. Families don't forge signatures on credit card applications. Families don't create group chats to coordinate theft. Families don't laugh about keeping the golden goose happy. Trevor's face went pale. You're taking those messages out of context. What context makes it okay to plan fake emergencies to steal money from a grieving widower? We weren't stealing. We were borrowing. Eventually, we would have paid you back. With what money? Your unemployment benefits, your imaginary job prospects. The income you don't have because you've been living off me for 2 years. Trevor started pacing, running his hands through his hair. Okay, look, maybe it got a little out of hand. Maybe we should have been more upfront about needing help. But you can't just cut us off completely. Jennifer's pregnant. I stared at him. Jennifer's pregnant. She found out last week. We were going to announce it at New Year's. The insurance thing, the phone stuff, we need that coverage now more than ever. Another manipulation, another crisis designed to extract money and sympathy. But this time I was ready for it. Congratulations, I said. I'm sure you'll figure out how to provide for your 4th child the same way every other responsible adult does, with actual employment and actual insurance that you pay for yourself. You sanctimonious bastard. You act like you're so much better than us because you got lucky with Sarah's life insurance. Lucky. The word came out quiet and dangerous. You think I was lucky that my wife died of cancer at 31. You think I was lucky to watch her waste away for 8 months while trying to hide her pain from our daughter. You think I was lucky to become a single father with no support system except a family that saw my tragedy as their opportunity. Trevor had the grace to look uncomfortable. That's not what I meant. That's exactly what you meant. You've always thought I didn't deserve what I had. Good marriage, decent job, life insurance, payout. So you decided to redistribute my good fortune to people who deserved it more. People like you. My phone started ringing from the kitchen. Emma called out, "Daddy, it's someone named Robert." Don't answer it. I called back, then turned to Trevor. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave my house and not come back. You're going to get your own insurance, your own phone plan, and your own streaming accounts, like every other adult in America. And if you contact me or Emma again, I'm filing restraining orders. You can't keep Emma away from her family. Emma's family is me. The rest of you are just people who share some DNA and a willingness to exploit grief for profit. Trevor's face twisted with anger. You'll regret this. Mom's in the hospital because of your selfish tantrum. If something happens to her, that's on you. If Mom's in the hospital, it's because she's panicking about losing her free ride. She survived 70 years without my financial support. I'm sure she'll manage. The lawyer thing is a mistake, too, Trevor said, heading toward the door. You think you can prove fraud? Good luck with that. We're family. We had permission to use those accounts. I smiled the first genuine smile I'd felt in his presence in years. Trevor, I've got screenshots of your group chat planning fake emergencies. I've got forged signatures on credit applications. I've got bank records showing systematic unauthorized transfers. I've got 2 years of documented lies about your financial situation while you posted pictures of expensive purchases on social media. His face went white. You can't prove intent. I can prove enough. And even if I couldn't you really want this to go to court? Do you want Jennifer's pregnancy announcement to happen during depositions about financial fraud? Do you want your kids to learn about their Christmas presents during criminal proceedings? Trevor stood in my doorway for a long moment, probably realizing that his threats and manipulations weren't working anymore. This isn't over, he said finally. Yes, it is, I replied and closed the door. Emma appeared beside me as I turned the lock. Uncle Trevor seemed angry. He's upset because he has to start paying for his own things now. Good, she said simply. I didn't like how he made you sad all the time. Out of the mouths of babes. My phone buzzed with a text from my lawyer. Can you come in earlier? Say 9:30. Your situation may be more urgent than I initially thought. I looked down at Emma, who was hugging mittens and humming softly to herself. She looked peaceful, content, unburdened by the drama that had defined our family interactions for 2 years. Want to go for a ride, sweetheart? Daddy has some important business to take care of. Can we get ice cream after? We can get whatever you want after. For the first time in her life, that was actually true. 3 months later, I sat in my lawyer's office signing the final settlement agreement. Trevor and my parents had agreed to pay back $12,000 over 18 months to avoid criminal prosecution for the credit card fraud. It wasn't everything they'd taken, but it was enough to make a statement and fund Emma's college account. The meeting had been tense. My parents looked older, smaller, somehow sitting across the conference table with their own attorney. Trevor's usual swagger was gone, replaced by the nervous energy of someone who'd finally realized that actions have consequences. The payment schedule is aggressive but manageable, their lawyer said, reviewing the terms. My clients understand that any missed payments will void the agreement and criminal charges will be filed immediately. Mom spoke for the first time in an hour. Barnaby, I want you to know we never meant to hurt you or Emma. I looked at her across the table, this woman who'd raised me, and then systematically exploited my grief for profit. I know you didn't mean to hurt us, Mom. You just didn't care if you did. The difference was everything. After the settlement was signed, and the lawyers had left my parents, and Trevor remained in the conference room, Dad cleared his throat. So what happens now? Can we try to rebuild some kind of relationship? I thought about it for a moment, really considered it. Not because I missed them, but because I wanted to be sure of my answer. I don't think so, Dad. You've shown me who you are when you think nobody's watching. I believe you. What about Emma? Mom asked. She shouldn't lose her grandparents because of our mistakes. Emma lost her grandparents the day you decided she was worth less than her cousins. She lost them when you chose to steal from her college fund to buy gaming systems for other children. She lost them when you made her sit through Christmas morning, watching other kids receive gifts bought with money I earned working overtime. She's just a child, Trevor said. She won't even remember this in a few years. I stood up, gathering my papers. You're right. She won't remember the details. But she'll remember how it felt to be valued and protected. She'll remember that her father chose her well-being over family obligations. She'll remember that some people are worth trusting, and others aren't. Emma was waiting for me in the lobby reading a book in one of the big leather chairs. She'd spent the morning with Sarah's parents who'd moved to Colorado 6 months ago, specifically to be closer to their granddaughter. Real grandparents who sent birthday cards on time and called just to hear her voice and never asked for anything except the joy of being part of her life. All done, Daddy. All done, sweetheart. Ready for our celebration lunch. We'd been planning this lunch for weeks. The restaurant she'd been wanting to try, the one with the fancy macaroni and cheese and the chocolate cake that cost more than we used to spend on groceries in a week. Money that was now available because I wasn't funding other people's lifestyles. Over lunch, Emma chattered about her new ballet classes, her improved grades now that I could afford tutoring, and her excitement about the summer camp she'd be attending. Things that had been impossible when I was sending $2,000 a month to family members who saw my generosity as weakness. Daddy, she said, twirling pasta around her fork with great concentration. I'm glad we don't go to Grammy and Papa's house anymore. Really, why? Because you're not sad all the time now, and because I like our Christmas better. Our Christmas. Just the two of us plus Sarah's parents and her sister's family who'd driven in from Utah. A smaller celebration, but a genuine one where Emma received gifts chosen specifically for her, where her excitement mattered, where she was the center of loving attention instead of an afterthought. I like our Christmas better too, I agreed. After lunch, we stopped by the community center where Emma and I had started volunteering on weekends. The same shelter where Sarah used to help out, now a place where Emma and I sorted donations and helped serve meals to families who needed support. Look, Mr. Barnaby, called out Maria, one of the regular volunteers. Emma's reading corner is getting lots of use today. Emma had donated most of her outgrown books to create a reading area for children staying at the shelter. She read stories to the younger kids every Saturday, her natural empathy shining through in ways that made me proud and reminded me so much of Sarah. Watching Emma settle in with 3 little ones for story time, I thought about the lessons she was learning. Real lessons about generosity, kindness, and family loyalty. Not the twisted version my biological family had tried to model, where love was conditional and children were ranked by their parents' usefulness. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Emma's cousin Ashley is asking when she can see Emma again. The kids miss each other. I deleted the message without responding. Emma hadn't asked about her cousins once in 3 months. She'd made new friends in ballet class, connected with children at the shelter, and grown closer to her maternal cousins who visited regularly. Her social life was full of genuine relationships, not obligations based on genetic proximity. Daddy, come listen to this story, Emma called out, waving me over to the reading corner. I joined the little group sitting cross-legged on colorful rugs while Emma read The Giving Tree with dramatic flair. The irony wasn't lost on me. A story about giving everything until there's nothing left, being read by a child who'd been protected from that exact fate. After volunteering, we drove home through the late afternoon sunshine. Emma fell asleep in her car seat, her hand still holding the thank you card one of the shelter kids had made for her. At home, I carried her inside and settled her on the couch for a nap, Mittens immediately curling up beside her. The house was quiet and peaceful, filled with the kind of contentment that comes from making the right choice, even when it's difficult. I opened my laptop to check emails and found a message from my employer about a promotion opportunity. Department supervisor, significant salary increase, better hours that would let me spend more time with Emma. The kind of advancement that had been impossible when I was constantly stressed about money and family drama. For the first time in 2 years, I had the mental energy to focus on my career instead of managing other people's emergencies. My phone rang. Sarah's mom calling from Colorado. Hi, Barbara. Barnaby, dear, how did the legal meeting go? I'd told Sarah's parents about the situation with my family. Their reaction had been immediate and supportive, absolute outrage on behalf of Emma and me, followed by practical assistance in finding a good lawyer and emotional support through the process. All settled. They'll be paying back what they stole, and we're officially done with them. Good. That family never deserved you or Emma. Sarah always said they took you for granted. Sarah. who'd seen the patterns I'd been too loyal to recognize, who'd gently suggested setting boundaries that I'd been too afraid to enforce, who'd worried about how her death might leave Emma and me vulnerable to exactly the kind of exploitation I'd experienced. Barbara, I want to ask you something. Would you and Robert consider moving closer? Emma asks about you constantly, and I think she needs real grandparents in her life. There was a pause, then the sound of muffled conversation as Barbara covered the phone to talk to her husband. We've been hoping you'd ask, she said finally. Robert's already been looking at houses in your area. We want to be part of Emma's daily life, not just holiday visits. Real family. People who wanted to give rather than take, who saw Emma as precious rather than inconvenient, who understood that love is demonstrated through actions rather than announced through obligations. That evening, Emma and I made dinner together, grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup that we ate while watching a movie neither of us had seen before. Simple pleasures that felt luxurious because they weren't shadowed by financial stress or family drama. Daddy, Emma said during a quiet moment in the movie, are we rich now? I thought about how to answer that. We weren't wealthy in any conventional sense. I still budgeted carefully, still clipped coupons, still shopped sales. But we were rich in ways that mattered. We're rich in love, Jornda, I said. We're rich in possibilities. We're rich in people who care about us for the right reasons. Good, she said, snuggling closer. I like being rich like that. Later, after Emma was asleep, I sat in my home office updating our budget. For the first time since Sarah died, the numbers worked without sacrifice or stress. Emma's college fund was growing. Our emergency savings were building. We could afford small luxuries and still meet all our obligations. Most importantly, we could afford to be generous in healthy ways. The monthly donation to the community center, the birthday gifts for Emma's friends, the family vacation we were planning for this summer. Giving that came from abundance rather than guilt, from joy rather than manipulation. I pulled out a piece of paper and wrote a letter I'd been composing in my mind for weeks. Emma, by the time you read this, you'll be old enough to understand why I made the choices I made when you were 8 years old. Someday people might try to tell you that family loyalty means accepting mistreatment, or that love requires sacrifice of your dignity. I want you to know that's not true. Real love protects. Real family builds each other up. Real loyalty goes both ways. I chose to protect you from people who would have taught you that your worth was less than others, that you should be grateful for scraps while watching others feast on your father's generosity. I chose to show you that you deserve better, that we both deserve better. Never let anyone make you smaller to accommodate their greed or insecurity. Never confuse cruelty with love or manipulation with family obligation. You are worthy of genuine care, honest relationships, and people who celebrate your existence rather than tolerate it. Love, Dad. I folded the letter and placed it in the fireproof safe with our other important documents, something for Emma to find when she needed reminder of her value. As I prepared for bed, I reflected on the question I wanted to ask my audience, the people who'd followed this journey from exploitation to empowerment. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting yourself or your children? Have you ever realized that people you loved were taking advantage of your kindness, your grief, or your desire to keep peace? It's one of the hardest decisions you'll ever make. But sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable destructive behavior. I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Have you had to set difficult boundaries with family members? How did you find the courage to prioritize your children's well-being over family expectations? Please like this video if it resonated with your experience. Subscribe for more stories about finding strength in difficult family situations, and share this with anyone who might need to hear that they deserve better. Thank you for following Emma's and my journey from exploitation to freedom. Remember that real family lifts you up, real love protects you, and real relationships are built on mutual respect rather than one-sided sacrifice. You deserve to be valued, protected, and genuinely loved. Don't settle for anything less. Sweet dreams. And remember that sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is walk away from people who mistake your kindness for weakness. Emma and I are living proof that on the other side of that difficult decision, there's peace, there's genuine joy, and there's the kind of family love that actually deserves the name.